I would just like to say hello, and I am so excited that I have the privilege to introduce Cindy Gibson. I've gotten to work with her for a year now, and to know her is to love her. So Cindy Gibson is the Chief Learning Officer at 806 Technologies. She has served in the education field for 27 years. Her various roles in both public and private schools include elementary principal, early childhood director, curriculum coordinator, federal programs coordinator, instructional coach, and classroom teacher. Cindy grew a passion for improvement planning during her federal programs years in large Dallas area district, where she supported campus administrators with identifying and documenting needs and goals, as well as providing focused support and training in Title I and Title III. Professionally, she most enjoys collaborating with state, district, and school leaders to analyze data, identify needs, work through challenges, and develop a clear plan focused on student success. And of course, as a former district user of Plan for Learning and Title I Crate, she loves to share the simplicity of documenting those processes in the software. Personally, she enjoys traveling and spending time with family. So, all right, come on up, Cindy.
Hi, y'all. Hey there. Okay, I got to give you the disclaimer on this amazing, do I have any Hawaii folks in here right now? Our friends from Hawaii came in this morning, they put this around my neck and they said it's good luck. So there's wires all over. I'm going to leave this on. I'm going to need luck so I don't fall on my face today, but that's this amazing blessing that I have right here. But welcome to the AI Edge in Education. We're just going to start off with some great quotes here. In any given moment, we have two options: to step forward into growth or step back into safety. As more and more AI is entering into the world, more and more emotional intelligence must enter into leadership. Turn to your neighbor and say, "Hey, good to see you." All right. And then let's take 10 seconds to tell your neighbor which quote is making you think the most right now. Take 10 seconds to tell your neighbor which quote is making you think the most right now. Awesome. Hopefully you'll have lots of deep thinking today, and we're actually going to have some time at the end for you to really collaborate together around all of the things you've been thinking about at the conference as a whole. So I'm just excited to be with you today. Like Reagan said, I'm Cindy Gibson, and lots of years in education. Just like all of you, you're really the experts out there, and we're learning from you constantly. Everything that I'm doing every day is really based on the conversations that I have with you. So thank you for always giving us suggestions, for helping us grow professionally and personally as well. In the context of this situation, I guess educator is the most important piece, but I do have to say I am a grandma now, so that is also one of my favorite roles. I got a 2-year-old granddaughter, and it's the best. It's just like everyone says. All right, and actually I think it's working. I also want to give the disclaimer that I am not an AI expert, okay, but don't get up and leave, please. I'm not an AI expert. I'm just a consummate learner and sharer of knowledge, and I just maybe have an unhealthy obsession about AI. This is me, yes. If you can read up there, it says me traveling to the next conference while trying to stay on top of the latest AI news. Yes. So I'm just really fascinated with the possibilities of AI, and you probably have a ton of ideas outside of what we're going to talk about today, and I can't wait to talk about those with you at some point. One of the things that is important to know is AI obviously is evolving very quickly. We're getting it from all angles, all different platforms, every industry, and so we really have to temper what we're digesting and what we're going to focus on. I'm not obsessing about all the different, large language models or what the different machine learning pieces are and things like that. It would be easy to become overwhelmed. And I think even easy to look at social media and see what your peers are doing and get overwhelmed by that too. So right now, we're just going to focus on cool apps and cool ways to use things, and we're going to do that through the lens of what our friends who make laws at USDE and Office of EdTech tell us. All right, I know you're here because you're a learner also, and you're curious, and so I'm going to collect a little bit of data that hopefully we can use later in ChatGPT. So if you'll take a minute and scan this, it's just a very quick few questions that will help us later on as we analyze data. Yesterday, ChatGPT was down for most of the afternoon, and the day before that, it was down most of the morning. So I did go in and screenshot everything that I had been building to show you. So hopefully we'll be able to model it live today, but if not, we've got some screenshots, and maybe we can play around with it another time. So this is my 89-year-old parents. When I went, they live in Oklahoma, and I went to visit them and take them to dinner. And it's like teenagers, right? Getting them off their phones. They're 89, y'all. So my mom has dementia, and she's declining rapidly. She has very little short-term memory, if any short-term memory, and her long-term memory is also struggling. She lives by her phone. We plug in all her routines and reminders in there, so it pops up and it tells her, what she needs to do during the day and when doctor's appointments are coming. And she just keeps that by her all the time. She scrolls for hours and hours through the photos on her phone so that she can look back over her life and talk about the events and remind herself of who her family is. So a blessing, a huge blessing to have this phone. My dad, I'm getting a little emotional. My dad is also 89, and right now at this dinner, he's looking for an email he received from some organization that organizes class reunions, and his 70th class reunion is coming, of which there are 3 people left in the class. So I'm like, why don't you just text them? And he's scrolling through and looking for this email for his reunion. He also spends hours on his phone every day. He was a pilot in his previous chapter of his life, and so he loves to read about planes and the latest innovation. And this, just the sweetest guy that he is, he also looks for strategies to help my mom and be a good caregiver for her. I manage their finances through my phone, through apps, and my dad and I communicate about that. I track their location because neither one of them really needs to be driving anywhere ever, but they do. Well, he does. So yeah, watch out. If you go to Norman, I'll let you know their license plate and you can just stay away from them. We're just so blessed. And when I think about how they grew up as children with no electricity, could they have ever imagined having this in their hand and being in this space right now? And even, they weren't early adopters of their cell phones. They were afraid. Their cell phones were going to take over the world. This is the end of humanity, all of the things. And there's definitely risks for sure, but I'm so grateful for this technology, and they are now too. They are now too. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is because, either you may feel this way, or you may have coworkers or friends that feel this way, that, yes, there's risks, but maybe they're really concerned about being adopters of AI. Maybe it's when I'm on my deathbed, and I get it, and I think we can all understand that. But I do think that there's asset and blessing in there, just like there is with the phones for my parents. But we do have to address the concerns, and that's critical. So what we're going to do right now is, as a group at your table, be thinking about what concerns does AI raise for you. And we need a scribe. So either volunteer at your table to be the scribe, the stenographer, or somebody elect a scribe at your table. But you're going to take that poster paper and just draw a horizontal line. I'm an elementary teacher, so I'm going to say horizontal is this way. So draw your horizontal line through the paper. And go ahead and just start jotting down at the top of your paper what concerns AI raises for you. We're going to take about 4 minutes for that. Can you just tell that I was an elementary teacher? Is that not the most fun noise? I love it. So thank you for taking time to jot that down. I'm sure that you could have gone on for quite a bit longer writing down concerns. My concern, based on the story I just told you, is like scammers using AI to sound like people who someone may know, like my mom buying a $700 imaginary dog. So yeah, there's definitely risks and concerns involved. But, you know, the USDE, regardless how you feel about them, are working on recommendations for responsible use of AI. And, you know, we need to start somewhere. And so it's good to have some guidance in looking at the people who are making the laws and the rules. It's a great place to start. So this image and this quote is actually straight from the USDE website. And on the if you scanned at the beginning, or if you're going into the app, the Whova app, to get this presentation, and I'll let you scan again at the end, this is a live link to the pages that have the recommendations we're going to look at today. But this is their image, and they say, we envision technology enhanced future, more like an electric bike and less like robot vacuums. On an electric bike, the human is fully aware and fully in control, but their burden is less and their effort is multiplied by a complementary technological enhancement. Can we all agree that humans should be in control? Yes, yes. How many of y'all feel in control of your student, staff, district AI scene right now? Yeah. Maybe you do. Maybe you feel like this. Maybe you got AI in the sidecar and you're cruising the motorcycle. You got a handle on everything. Maybe you're just getting excited and you're all working together. Maybe you're taking risks already. How many of you feel like this? Or maybe this? So regardless how you feel about it, it's never not going to be in our lives again. So how we approach it matters, and how we're looking at it matters. All right, here's the recommendation. There's 7 of them. 6 are really programmatic. The 7th is more IT related. But I'm going to read this here. Emphasize humans in the loop. We reject the notion of AI as replacing teachers. Teachers and other people must be in the loop whenever AI is applied in order to notice patterns and automate educational processes. We call upon all constituents to adopt humans in the loop as a key criteria. This is also an image from the USDE website, Office of Ed Tech. So talk at your table, just very quickly, 30 seconds. Does this mitigate any of the concerns that you wrote on your paper? If it does, just go ahead and put an X next to them. 30 seconds, talk at your table. Does this mitigate any concerns on your paper? All right, if it mitigates anything, just go ahead and cross that off. And let's look at the next one. This is recommendation number 2, align AI models to a shared vision for education. I'm going to kind of breeze through these, and you'll have access to them, because really what we want to get to is the part where you get to practice and have some fun, right? So recommendation number 2, align AI models to a shared vision for education. If you'll just take a minute on your own to study this and kind of look at it, and then tell your table what's catching your attention on this in regards to mitigating anything on your list. And go ahead and have that scribe cross them off. I wonder if the other rooms can hear this, and they're wondering what's going on there. All right, let's look at recommendation number 3. Design using modern learning principles. Achieving effective systems requires more than processing big data. It requires more than data science. Applications of AI must be based on established modern learning principles, the wisdom of educational practitioners, and should leverage the expertise in the educational assessment community around detecting bias and improving fairness. Going forward, we must also seek to create AI systems that are culturally responsive and culturally sustaining, leveraging the growth of published techniques for doing so. Further, most early AI systems had few specific supports for students with disabilities and English learners, and we must ensure that AI-enabled learning resources are intentionally inclusive of these students. Can I bribe someone with some fun robot building stickers to sum this up in a shorter phrase? Yes, ma'am.
I think that there's always the resistance factor. So there's always going to be somebody that's either too literate or too idealistic, and so there's always going to be a barrier of someone kind of going against the grain, either out of curiosity or resistance. And so while there's absolutely tons of positivities, especially for some of our commercial pops, there's always going to be that person that wants to either dig in their heels or
Yes. Anyone else? I got one more. I got one more set of stickers. Sum this up. Yes, ma'am.
It must be based on the wisdom of educational practitioners.
You get an amen to that. Yes. This is a wise group right here. That's a wise woman right there. That's Megan from Austin ISD, and she's a rock star. Awesome. Thank you. That's a mouthful. Definitely something that you'd have to sit and just really think through. So here's number 4. Prioritize strengthening trust. Yes, please. Trust is everything, right? I'm especially interested in this one because what we see coming at us constantly is app after app, program after program, and all of them are building AI in, and we're not really sure what that means. So technology can only help us to achieve educational objectives when we trust it. We learned through a series of public listening sessions, which those are also on the USD website, the recorded stakeholder listening sessions. We learned that through the listening sessions that distrust of educational technology and AI is commonplace. Because trust develops as people meet and relate to each other, we call for a focus on building trust and establishing criteria for trustworthiness of emerging educational technologies within the associations, convenings, and professional organizations that bring educators, innovators, researchers, and policymakers together. Get it? Amen. Okay, so what stands out to me here is establishing criteria. There's your call to action. Establishing criteria for trustworthiness of emerging technologies in the AI space. So what you're going to do on the bottom of your paper now is talk as a group about what would be acceptable evidence for you as trustworthiness in the AI space. You're evaluating a program, you're looking at a vendor, you're thinking about apps. What would be evidence, criteria of evidence of trustworthiness, okay? And just at the bottom of the paper, have that scribe start jotting down those criteria. It's pretty fun. All right, here's recommendation number 5. Inform and involve educators. This one you're just going to read on your own, and while you're reading, think about how does this differ from the humans in the loop piece that we talked about earlier, and we're just going to have a few people raise their hand and share out at the end of that. So read this on your own. How does this differ from humans in the loop? Do we have a couple people who want to weigh in on how this differs from humans in the loop? Yes, ma'am.
This is more about development and less about utilization.
More about development, less about utilization. Thank you. You need to get big. Good job. Anyone else? Yes.
I think it's about my end, and I think that it's unfortunate that a lot of times people making the decisions of what we're doing are not the ones in the trenches.
Yes. People making decisions are not always the ones in the trenches. Yeah. Yep. And you were going to share.
I was just going to say, it's about people having a voice.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks. Great insights. So heavy lifting for our brains right now. We've got 2 more. This is the last programmatically focused one. Focus on research and development and addressing context and enhancing trust and safety. So also just read this one and think about what contextual considerations means to you. It's a phrase in there, and we'll popcorn out. What does contextual considerations mean to you? Don't even raise your hand, just popcorn. I have good wait time from my teacher years.
It's able to differentiate based on context.
Cool. Thank you. She said it's able to differentiate based on context. What else?
What it might look like in a high school ELA room compared to a lab room.
Thank you. Can you hear back there what she said? What it might look like in a high school ELA classroom versus a math classroom.
Also, like urban versus rural schools.
Sure. Yeah. Good point.
Versus everybody's context is different. How can AI adjust to every school?
Everybody's context is different. And I wonder how many of you have felt like you've been in a district or even in a personal situation where someone tells you what, here's this new initiative that we're doing and it's rolling out for everybody, but because your school doesn't look like the school next door or the school down the street, what they're doing may not apply as much to you. That context is critical. It's critical. All right, this is the last one. It says develop education-specific guidelines and guardrails. It's very, we're probably more focused on your IT team because the security measures here, but just talking about data privacy regulation that already covers educational technology. Also, it's the security is a priority of school educational technology leaders. Modifications and enhancements to the status quo will be required to address the new capabilities alongside the risks of AI. And we call for involvement of all perspectives in the ecosystem. We're an ecosystem. It calls for perspectives in all of the ecosystem to define a set of guidelines. So really a lot about that IT piece, and I think your teams probably in districts are already having really deep discussions about what that looks like. I know there's districts that have shared with me that they're not even letting any like ChatGPT or Claude or any of that come through their firewall at this point until they kind of figure some things out in their district. So can you give me a thumbs up? Oh, you know what? We didn't cross off our list. Everything that we just went over in the last few slides, look at the bottom, at the top of your list and cross off anything that's mitigated. So we had our security piece here, our context, our contextual considerations, and involving educators. So look at your concerns at the bottom and cross off what you can. Okay, my clicker is working. I'm freed from the podium. It's liberating. Thank you for doing that activity. So the reason we are going through those and crossing those concerns off the list is because, like I said before, this is never not going to be in our lives again, right? It's here. And so we want to have an asset-based mindset as we look at it, but also keep in mind there are concerns and there's risks. And so just knowing what kind of guidelines are in place to be able to mitigate those concerns. So raise your hand. Give me a thumbs up if you cross most of them off your list, like a so-so if you got some, or thumbs down if you didn't really cross many off your list at all. We got. Okay, so mostly we've got up or some, most or some. Good. So we're mitigating concerns and we're going to continue to do that. Let's look at it with an asset-based mindset. So I just was messing around with ChatGPT and the internet's having a hard time pushing it. So I'm going to go through my screenshots first, and then when we have our practice time together, we'll try to get that going again. But basically, we're going to dig into some data analysis. So this is very, very exciting for me. One of the roles that I had in a district was working with teams on looking at their data. Anybody else do that pretty regularly? Yes. Yes. It's amazing. You can have great, deep conversations. There's lots of guiding questions that can help you in this work, but it is time consuming. It is time consuming. And it's hard to get deep into it. So we're going to look at these areas here, starting with student scores by standard and how we can jumpstart. So this is a fake document that I created. It's mock data, mock names, just made this all up. And you can see up here, it's 5th grade reading snapshot comparison. And so I've taken these fake student names that ChatGPT made up for me, and the instructor name, and then right here you can see there's a set of standards that repeats 3 times throughout the year for each of those snapshots or benchmarks. Anybody have data like this that they look at regularly? Yes. What are you looking for here? Growth. You're looking for growth, okay? So how do you do that? What does that look like if you're not using technology and you have the spreadsheet, which, by the way, is actually 117 lines long, but only 42 of them fit on here. So imagine tripling this, and now it's sitting in front of you in a meeting. What do? You rearrange, color code, taking it in chunks, okay? Yeah. So I downloaded this very sheet that I created in Google Sheets into an Excel sheet so that I could put it in ChatGPT. All right, who's using ChatGPT right now? Okay. Not right at this moment. Hopefully. So this is just what the interface looks like if you've never been in there before. Basically, down here at the bottom, you can tell it what you want it to do, and you can attach documents. And it does it. So up here, I've put the 5th grade reading snapshot that you just looked at. Well, you looked at a third of it, okay? And I said, assume the role of an elementary school principal. And I decided that it would be most useful for me to see how each class was doing on each standard. I wanted to see which class had the most growth over those 3 benchmarks in each standard. So I told it, provide a list of learning standards grouped by instructor, ranked starting with the learning standard that showed the highest amount of growth over the 3 snapshots. Do you know how long it took to do this? It took 30 seconds. It took 30 seconds, and it produced for me by teacher right here. Winters is one of the teachers. 5.6A, his class had the very highest growth, and it ranked them by the standard down to number 8, lowest amount of growth right there. So I screenshotted each of those teachers so that you could see them all collectively here, okay? Maybe you did this before you even came into your data meeting, or maybe you're doing it in the first 2 minutes of your data meeting, but now, instead of 117 rows of column after column of percentage after percentage, what can we do now? What does the conversation look like now? Yes, you're really getting deep really fast. So you're not taking away the deep thinking that needs to happen. You're just getting to it so much faster. So much faster. So look at this. Winters, 5.6A, top, most growth. Bain, that was the top growth standard. Talbot, top 2. Carrier, top 3. Fawns, top 2. Trueluck, top 1. What do we know about 5.6A in our 5th grade? Yep, they're doing pretty well. Also, I can look here and see 5.6B for Winters, top 3. Where is it here? Bottom 3 for Bain. Right in the middle for Talbot. It's up there at the top for Carrier. Up there at the top for Fawns. Yeah, so what are you going to do now? What does the conversation look like now for 5.6B? Talk to the ones who have high scores, who showed the most growth, okay? Find out what they're doing. What else could you do with that? Are you pairing some of them up? Maybe go collaborate. Hey, Fawns, you had, or let's see, I think it was right here. Hey, Bain, why don't you pop over and talk to Carrier, your partner teacher? Collaborate a little bit around that one and see what instructional strategies was that teacher using that maybe you could adopt. There's going to be a lot of contextual considerations, right? We got to think about the students in our classrooms, but look how fast we got to this point from that. Very cool. So then I said, well, I want it in a colorful visual, because I like charts and graphs. So there it is. Here it is bigger. You know how long it took it to do that? 30 seconds. Yes?
How long did it take you to come up with the right prompt to
This is great point. Okay, so this prompt right here, I did try it once. This is very critical. It probably took me a minute or two to come up with the right prompt. The prompt, when you're approaching any AI tool that is going to aggregate data for you, to have clear in your mind what you're looking for is the most critical. And you know what? It's a challenge for us even just communicating as humans, like being concise and articulate. So when we're just think, what do I want from this? And try to say it out loud. This is my strategy. Try to say it out loud. And then I think, oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. Okay, I want it by teacher. I want the very first, the highest growth standard listed first and going down from there. And so when you can communicate it out loud clearly, which some of you may be able to do immediately, especially if you work with data a lot, it took me a minute or so. And then I just typed it in. And I think I could have done a better job and maybe gotten a little bit different results. But that's a great point. I did save all the prompts for you, and they're going to be in a shared folder so that you can access those and mess around as well. So, yes? That's a great question. So right here, there's this attachment right there. I just attached I uploaded the Excel sheet. Yes. It's in the free one. It's not going to give you graphs in the free one. I pay $20 a month for 4.0 now, and I love it, and it's worth it. So, but this is what it looks like. And you can see up here, it's got the teachers grouped, and then it has the standard. And then I realized as I put back on my data analysis hat, my elementary school principal hat, and I started thinking, I really want this by standard and not by teacher now. So I asked it to do that. I said, hey, this looks good. Can you make another one, but group it by standard? And so that one took like 10 seconds. So now I can look here. Truluck, Fons, Carrier, Talbot, Bain, all for 5.6H. And it also bothered me that these were all blue because I didn't know where one ended and the next one began. So I was like, hey, can you please change the colors? And it did. Okay. So if you were doing this in your Excel sheet, you're clicking each one, or maybe you're super proficient and you can do that in 5 seconds, but it did it in 5 seconds. So now I can see, let's see, 5.6H right there. Look at these celebrations over here. You can immediately start celebrating with your teachers. You got that. You got these celebrations. And then you got these growth opportunities that you can start talking about. Has anybody done this yet? Do you think this is something you could do? Yes, you already have 6,000 of these spreadsheets somewhere on your computer. I know this. And you've color-coded them, and yes.
This is probably really old when you use this a lot. So you ever go back when you first uploaded the Excel sheets, you ever go back to that, let me just check it. Let me just make sure that
You always need to check stuff. You always need to check stuff. I trust it more with numbers because I was asking for very objective data here. Just sort it, analyze it. There's nothing here for it to make up. But if you start asking for instructional strategies, which I do, it may start making some things up. And that's where you definitely need your educator wisdom in there. But with data, I haven't noticed it having any new challenges. Yes, sir. What a great lead-in. So, well, here's my, yes, do you want all of these or do you just want that? Okay. So I took, let's go past this. I took a mock taper. Texas folks know what a taper report is. If you're not from Texas, it's just basically your states. Every state has a different name, but it's your big picture ranking by standard, by content area. It's a report that the state puts out. It's PDF. It's got a lot of data on it. It's big picture. I popped it in there and I said, hey, this is my role at the school district. I need to know what type of training to prioritize for school leaders based on the scores in this report. I said, provide a list of what training to start with, triangulate the scores, the subject areas, student demographics, provide specific details. I would definitely be checking this, okay? It's gonna give you ideas. It's gonna jumpstart some thinking. So that the groups that you're working with, backwards planning with, doing, who's going to do what lessons, what kind of targeted intervention do we need, but it's going to give you ideas. So it started out here with an analysis, and what I love about ChatGPT too is it actually is like showing you what it's doing. So it's like, hold on, I'm doing this. Okay, now I'm doing this, and it takes you through the process, which helps you think about how to do it yourself too. So here's it going through grade 3, grade 4, grade 4, grade 5 science, grade 6 math. And finally, in the end, it gives me this priority training list. Hey, in your district, you need to focus on special education and economically disadvantaged students. This is what the data is telling us. Culturally responsive teaching for African American and Hispanic students in reading and literacy right there. That's what the data says, that these are deficit areas, and here's some strategies. Are these the strategies that you need to do? Maybe, maybe not. That's where your conversations, humans in the loop, all of that wisdom from an educator needs to come into place. Okay, let's look at, this is super fun. So, you know George Couros, he wrote Innovator Mindset, and let me pause this so you can see all what he's doing here. He had an AI webinar, and he just asked the whole group to provide answers to this question you see right up here at the top. What are the biggest challenges around AI you're experiencing in your district that you would like to see addressed in the virtual event? So 92 people provided whatever response they wanted to that question, and he's showing us here, there's no sound on this. He's showing us there was 92 people that responded. He put it in ChatGPT, take the following prompts and summarize them into 3 categories. And he pasted those prompts in there. And then here it is. Then he said, now create 3 short questions to answer based on the prompts. So it started writing questions that he could ask. Okay, just like that. Let's go back here, and I'll pause it on this last piece. Might be able to do this for you. Well, it's in you can definitely access this and watch it and slow it down however you like. But he pretty much created a PD plan in about 30 seconds based on the needs of the group right there live. Could you do this with your teachers? Could you do this with your students if you're allowed to use ChatGPT? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Are you going to check it? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. But he's got a pretty solid plan here about what to cover in his webinar. Very cool. So, I did tell you that yesterday ChatGPT was down along with many other things in the world all at the same time. But so I put some mock data into the responses that you answered this morning on that little form. And I want to show you the process I went through. And then we'll do it hopefully live here together. And then I want to give you guys plenty of time to practice and play around. So I took some data collection, just practice data collection to those questions. And I wrote this prompt. Always tell, like Claude or ChatGPT or any of the models, large language models that you're using, tell it what role to assume so it knows the context, even it needs context. So I said I surveyed my staff on what they would like to learn. I want you to compare the responses in the what I use AI for now column with the responses in the ways I would like to use AI column. The wording doesn't have to be exact, it just needs to be closely aligned. This, to your point earlier, I went back and edited this because it did spit out some information and it said there's not a bunch of exact matches. And so I went back and you just click, there's a little pencil that shows up. There's a little pencil that shows up right here when you're live in ChatGPT and you can edit your response. So if it spits out information and you want it adjusted, you can go back and edit. So I went back and edited and say, it doesn't have to be exact. Just try to closely align the meaning. And notice that some responses have multiple items separated by commas. Okay, so it spit out a list of teaching partners. And it spit out a list of learning partners, and this is what it looked like. So here was the fake responses. They're like to the answers that you provided earlier. How are you using it? How would you like to use it? Guess what? Melissa, you're going to go teach Sarah about creating presentations. Rita, you're going to teach Evelyn about writing. And then over here, Stephanie, you're going to be a learner while Deja's teaching you how to do lesson plans for your class. How could you use the same kind of plan in your classroom or in your district? How much time do you spend like, okay, who needs to know what? Tell me what you're doing. Let's design our PD plan. You could group students. Are you getting excited? I feel very excited about this. Yes, you could group students. All right, so before we access the mock data, let's see if we can get in ChatGPT and take your answers. We're not going to group up by your answers, but we're going to see if we can. There is the mock data, and I'm going to pull all your data that you entered earlier, and I'm going to enter it in here, but I don't want you to spend time waiting on me to do that. Access that mock data, and you can do that through that QR code. Did you guys scan the QR code at the beginning? Okay. And you can click to access the mock data. You also don't even have to use the mock data. You can go into ChatGPT, and really the rest of this time until we finish up, just a few minutes before we finish up, is for you to start playing and talking, using your own data. Remember, don't put personal information into ChatGPT. Don't put your student names in there. Always want to change that. But this is a time for you to start experimenting, and I'm going to walk around and work with you, and I'm going to try to get this working too. But this is your time. Yes? Yes. Let's get the QR code back up there.